A cockroach can survive a week without its head, but it cannot survive what I'm about to show you. And the only thing you need is sitting in your kitchen drawer right now, a roll of aluminum foil. That's it. That's the whole secret. $1's worth of foil that the big pest companies pray you never figure out. Because here's the truth. They don't print on those expensive sprays. The plain people, my people, have been keeping pests out of pantries and root cellars for over 200 years without a single can of poison from the store. We didn't have an exterminator's number on the refrigerator. We didn't have a refrigerator. What we had was knowledge passed from a grandfather's hands to a father's hands to mine. And tonight I'm handing it to you. Stay with me, because right around the middle of this, I'm going to show you the exact way to build a trap that pulls roaches out of your walls and finishes them overnight for less than the price of a cup of coffee. The same way my grandfather did it in a stone cellar in Lancaster County before I was tall enough to reach the lantern. But first, do me one small favor. Drop a comment and tell me which state you're watching from and whether you've got the little German cockroaches in the kitchen or the big ones that come up from the drains. I read every one, and it tells me who I'm really talking to tonight. Now let me tell you why you've been losing this fight. You walk into the kitchen at night, you flip the light, and for half a second you see them scatter. That dark, oily shine darting under the stove, the crackle of tiny legs. You feel your stomach turn. So you do what they told you to do. You drive to the big store, you stand in that aisle that smells like chemicals, and you pick up the can with the angriest label. $14, maybe $18. You spray the baseboards till the whole house smells like a gas station, and for 2 days it works. Then they come back, more of them, bolder than before. So you buy the bait stations, another $20, then the gel and the little syringe, another $15, then the foggers, the kind that make you leave your own home for 4 hours like a stranger, and still, at 2 in the morning, you hear that whisper of movement on the countertop. The average American family spends between $300 and $600 a year fighting cockroaches. Some folks call the exterminator and pay that much in a single visit, then sign up for the monthly plan, and now it's a bill that never ends. A bill for a problem that never quite goes away. I want you to think about that. You're paying every single month and the roaches are still there. Who exactly is that arrangement working for? It is not working for you. It works beautifully for the company that sells the spray. It works beautifully for the man who comes once a month and sprays the same baseboard your spray already failed on. An entire industry, billions of dollars, built on one simple idea that you cannot do this yourself. That the bug is too clever, too tough, too ancient for an ordinary person with ordinary things. That is the lie. Because the cockroach is not unbeatable. The cockroach is, in fact, one of the most predictable creatures the good Lord ever made. It wants 3 things. It wants dark, it wants damp, and it wants to feel something solid against its back while it sleeps. Learn those 3 things, and you don't need the can at all. My grandfather knew those 3 things. He never read a study. He just watched. That's the plain way. You watch the world, and the world tells you the truth if you're patient enough to be quiet. And only now, in the last few years, are the universities catching up to what he already knew in his bones. So let me start with the foil itself, because I can already hear the doubt. How can a sheet of metal you wrap a sandwich in do anything to a bug? Here is the first thing most folks never understand. A cockroach does not see the world the way you do. It barely sees it all, not in the way you mean. It moves through your house mostly by feel and by smell, dragging those 2 long feelers across every surface, reading the world like a blind man reads a wall. Those feelers, the antennae, are covered in thousands of tiny sensors. They taste the air, they feel the temperature, they find the grease trail another roach left behind, and they follow it home. Now think about what aluminum foil does. Foil is cold. It pulls the warmth right out of the air against it and holds nothing. A roach crawling across your warm wooden cabinet is comfortable. The moment it hits a strip of foil, the temperature under its feet drops, and that little body which lives and dies by warmth throws up an alarm. It does not like it. It will not cross a wide band of it willingly if there's another path. But that's only the start, and it's the part the internet gets wrong. Some folks think you just lay foil down and the roaches politely leave. No. A hungry roach will cross anything to reach food. Foil alone is a fence, not a weapon. A fence with a gate is no fence at all. So we do what my people always did. We don't just block the pest, we use what the pest wants against it. Here is the science the English finally measured. Entomologists at the University of Florida and at Purdue have studied cockroach behavior for decades, and they found something my grandfather would have just nodded at. Cockroaches are what they call thigmotactic. That's a big word for a simple thing. It means they love to be touched. They love to wedge themselves into a tight crack where something presses against their back and their belly at the same time. A roach in the open feels naked and afraid. A roach squeezed into a seam feels safe. That craving is their weakness. And foil, my friends, can be folded into the tightest, most inviting crack a roach has ever felt in its life. Let me show you the first thing you can do this very night before you go to bed. Tear off a strip of foil about a foot long. Now fold it the long way again and again until you have a stiff little band, maybe an inch wide. Press it flat. Then go to the back of your kitchen, behind the stove, behind the refrigerator, in that gap where the counter meets the wall. That dark, warm seam is the cockroach highway. Every roach in your house uses it. You just never see it because you never look. Lay that folded foil band right along the base of that gap. Press tight to the wall. What you've done is narrow the highway. You've made the opening of their favorite crack tighter, which they love, so they crowd into it. You've concentrated them. You've made them gather in one predictable spot instead of spreading through your whole wall. Now you know where they are. And in a minute, I'm going to show you how to turn that gathering spot into the last place they ever gather. But that's later. Stay with me. First, I want to talk about why the can in your cabinet keeps failing, because once you understand this, you'll never waste money on it again. When you spray a baseboard, you're spraying where you saw a roach, but for every roach you see, there are between 100 and 800 you don't. The University of Kentucky Extension Service put hard numbers on it. They found that in a typical infested apartment, fewer than 5% of the cockroaches are ever out in the open at one time. 95% are deep in the walls, behind the dishwasher motor, inside the warm hollow of the refrigerator's base, packed into the cardboard you stacked in the pantry. Your spray kills the 5%. The 95% never touch it. And here is the cruel part. Many of these sprays are what they call repellents. They smell bad to the roach. So when you spray that baseboard, you don't kill the colony. You just teach them to use a different door. You scatter them deeper into your house, into the bedroom walls, into rooms that were clean before you started spraying. You paid $18 to make your problem bigger and spread it through more rooms. Read that again and let it sit. That is the whole game. That is why the bottle never quite works and why you always need another bottle. We never had that problem because we never had the bottle. We had to actually solve it. When you can't run to the store, you learn to think. And what you learn is that you cannot chase a roach. You have to make the roach come to you, carry your weapon home on its own legs, and hand it to the whole colony for you. That brings me to the heart of this. The thing that turns a kitchen drawer staple into something that empties your walls. You're going to need one more thing besides the foil, and you almost certainly already have it, or it costs a couple dollars at most. Boric acid. It's the white powder sold for roaches and ants, sometimes as a roach powder, sometimes plain in the laundry aisle as borax, though the pure boric acid works faster. A box costs less than $5 and will outlast every roach in your county. Now here is where I tell you the thing the pest control industry would rather you forget. Boric acid is not new. It is not some breakthrough. The United States Department of Agriculture was writing about boric acid against household insects more than 100 years ago, back in the early 1900s. It was cheap then. It is cheap now. And study after study, including work out of the University of Florida, has shown boric acid killing upward of 90 to 100% of a cockroach population when it's used right. 90 to 100% from a powder that costs less than your morning coffee. So why does the man with the spray truck not just use a $5 box of it and be done? Because there's no $5 box that brings him back to your door every month. There's no $5 box with a monthly subscription. You cannot build an industry on something that works the first time and costs nothing. You can only build an industry on something that almost works, so you have to keep buying it. The plain people never needed an industry. We needed it to work once. Here is how boric acid actually kills, because you should understand your weapon. It does not poison the roach the way a nerve spray does. It works two ways, both slow, both certain. When a roach walks across boric acid, the fine powder clings to those waxy legs and that oily body. Cockroaches are clean creatures, cleaner than people think. They groom constantly, pulling their legs and antennae through their mouths to keep their sensors working. So the roach eats the powder cleaning itself, and once inside, the boric acid tears up the lining of its gut and dries the creature out from the inside like a slow drought in its belly. That slowness is the genius of it. A fast poison kills the roach where it stands out in the open, and the colony never knows. But a roach that eats boric acid doesn't die for hours, sometimes a day or two. It has time to walk home. It walks back into the wall, into the nest, and it dies there among the others. And here is the part that finishes the colony. Roaches eat their dead. They eat each other's droppings. So that one poisoned roach becomes a meal that carries the boric acid to a dozen more that never left the wall. They poison their own family for you. You do not chase them. You let them carry it home. And if you want to go even deeper into these old methods, the kind that work in the pantry, the root cellar, the garden, and the field, I put together something I'm genuinely proud of. It's called the Garden Blueprint, and it covers old-fashioned pest cures that cost pennies alongside the Harvest Blueprint, which goes into Amish soil and storage secrets for bigger yields. Both are collected in the Complete Garden Field Edition, available right now for just $97 through the link in the description. Generations of plain people knowledge, written down in one place, so you never have to hand your money to a company again for something the old ways already solved. But right now, let's get back to the heart of this, because I promised you the trap that empties your walls overnight. Now, let me put the foil and the boric acid together, the way my grandfather built it in that cellar, the trap I promised you at the start. Take a square of foil, about the size of your hand. In the center, you're going to make a paste. Mix the boric acid with something they cannot resist. The old way was a little bacon grease or lard, because fat draws a roach like nothing else. You can use peanut butter, you can use a dab of sugar mixed with the powder and a drop of water to make a thick paste. The ratio that the research lands on is roughly 3 parts bait to 1 part boric acid. You do not want it too strong. If it tastes like poison and kills too fast, they die before they get home and before they tell the others. A little powder, lots of bait, patience, not force. Put a small dab of that paste in the center of your foil square. Now fold the foil up around it, loosely, into a little open cup or a tent with the bait tucked inside and a gap for them to crawl in. You've made a tiny, shiny cave. Dark inside, a tight space they love to wedge into, food in the back. To a cockroach, that is not a trap. That is a dream home. Why the foil and not just a glob of paste on the floor? 3 reasons, and they all matter. First, the foil keeps the bait from drying out. A glob of peanut butter on the counter turns to stone in a day, and they ignore it. Folded in foil in that little cave, it stays soft and smelly and tempting for a week or more. Second, the foil keeps it clean and contained. You can pick the whole thing up and throw it away. No grease stain on the cabinet, no powder where the grandkids or the dog might find it. You fold it shut and it's gone. Third, and this is the one nobody tells you, the foil holds the scent and funnels it. That little metal cup channels the smell of the fat and sugar out into the room in a thin trail along the floor, right along the cold edges roaches like to travel. Their antennae catch it from across the room and they follow it straight into the cave. The foil becomes a scent horn, calling them in. Now you take those little foil traps, and you don't put them where you saw the roach. You put them where the roach lives. Behind the refrigerator, under the sink, in the back corner where the pipes come through the wall, because that's the damp and dark they crave, behind the stove, inside the lower cabinet, pushed to the very back, in the bathroom behind the toilet base, 1 trap every few feet along those dark edges, then you turn off the light, and you go to bed, and you let the night do the work. My people always trusted the night to do. You'll know by the 2nd or 3rd morning, fewer of them when you flip the light, then almost none. Then you'll find the little ones gone too because the young ones eat what the adults bring home. In 10 to 14 days, you can empty a wall that the $18 can couldn't touch in 3 months. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, and I want to answer it before it stops you. You're thinking, this is fine for somebody just moving into a place. But my house is 40 years old. I've had roaches off and on for years. The walls are full of them. The cabinets are old. There are cracks I can't even reach. This won't work on an established mess like mine. I want to talk to you especially because that's the very situation my grandfather's methods were built for. We didn't live in new houses. We lived in farmhouses, 100 years old, with stone foundations and timber walls and 1,000 cracks where the cold and the critters got in. An old house isn't a disadvantage here. An old house just means you have more highways to find. And the wonderful thing is you don't need to reach inside the walls at all. You never did. You let them come out to you. So here's what you do this weekend. With nothing but foil, a box of boric acid, and an afternoon. Walk your house slow with a flashlight in the evening when it's getting dark. Don't turn on the lights. Watch the edges. Watch where the roaches run when you do flip a switch, because they're running home and they'll show you every door if you watch. Mark those spots in your mind. The corner under the sink, the gap behind the fridge, the seam where the counter meets the wall. Now the foil tape, this is the part for the old house, and it's the part nobody mentions. They sell metal foil tape, the kind for sealing ductwork, in any hardware store for a few dollars a roll. It's foil with a sticky back. Take that roll and seal up every crack you can find where the roaches come out, the gap where the pipe enters the wall under the sink, the seam at the back of the cabinet, the space behind the baseboard, the little hole where the wire comes through. Here's why this beats caulk, which is what the exterminator would charge you to do. Roaches can chew through soft caulk and through that spray foam. They cannot chew through aluminum. It's metal. Their jaws are made for paper and grease and crumbs, not for tearing metal. You seal a crack with foil tape, and that crack is closed forever. You're not just blocking them. You're shrinking their whole world down to the few openings you choose to leave. And at each of those few openings, you place one of your little foil bait traps. Now, every road out of the wall leads through your trap. They cannot leave home without crawling past dinner. That is how you take an old, infested house and turn the building itself against the roach. You make the house small for them and large for you. And while you're at it, do one more thing that costs nothing. Find their water. Roaches can go a month without food, but only about a week without water. In an old house, the water is under the kitchen sink and behind the toilet, where the slow drip and the condensation pool. Wipe it dry. Put a folded square of foil under the pipe to catch and show you any leak. Fix the drip if you can, even just a rag wrapped tight. Take away the water, and now your boric acid is the only easy meal and the only moisture-heavy bait in a desert you created. They'll go to it faster. They have nowhere else to drink. That's the whole campaign. Seal with foil tape, bait with foil traps, dry up the water. An afternoon's work, maybe $10 in materials, and you've done what the monthly service couldn't do all year. Now, I told you at the start there was a finale, a thing I'd save for those of you who stayed. This is it, and it's the one that took me the longest to believe myself, even though I'd watched my grandfather do it. Everything I've told you so far, the foil bands, the boric acid traps, the foil tape, that kills the roaches that are in your house now, but it does not stop the new ones from coming. And there will always be new ones, because roaches don't just live in your walls. They ride in, they come home from the grocery store in the folds of a paper bag. They come in the cardboard box from the delivery. They come up the drain pipe from the sewer line, especially the big ones in the warm months. A roach lays an egg case, what they call an ootheca, and a single case holds between 14 and 40 eggs. One pregnant female who rides in on a cardboard box can become 80 roaches in a matter of weeks. You can win the battle and lose the war if you don't stop the door. Here is the thing the plain people did, and I have never once seen it in a store or heard it from an exterminator because there's no money in it. You make a roach trap out of a glass jar and foil, and you put it where they come in. But the trick, the real trick, the thing my grandfather knew, is in how you line it. Take a clean glass jar, a quart canning jar is perfect. Now take a strip of foil and fold it into a funnel, wide at the top, narrow at the bottom, and set it inside the jar with the narrow end pointing down into the jar, like a metal cone. The roaches climb up the outside, drawn by the bait you put in the bottom. They slip over the lip and slide down the smooth foil funnel into the jar, and they cannot climb back out because the funnel walls are foil and their feet can't grip the metal, and the narrow opening is above them now, out of reach. A roach motel made of a jar and a sheet of foil. Costs nothing. Reusable forever. But here is the secret inside the secret. What you put in the bottom of that jar. My grandfather used stale beer, just a finger of it in the bottom. And for years, I thought it was just because that's what was around the dregs of a bottle. But the universities have since proven exactly why it works. And it's not the beer. It's a chemical in the fermentation. Cornell University and others have documented that cockroaches are powerfully drawn to the smell of fermenting yeast and sugar. The carbon dioxide and the alcohols that rise off fermenting bread dough or stale beer mimic the exact scent of rotting, food-rich decay that a roach is hardwired to seek out to lay its eggs. It is the single most attractive smell in the world to a pregnant female cockroach. So you don't even need beer. You take a pinch of ordinary baking yeast, the kind for making bread, a teaspoon of sugar, and a little warm water, and you put it in the bottom of that foil-lined jar. Within an hour, it starts to ferment and bubble, and it breathes out that irresistible smell. And the roaches that ride into your house, the new ones, the pregnant ones carrying the next 80, they smell that fermenting yeast from across the room, they climb the jar, they slide down the foil funnel, and they drown in the very thing they were searching for. The mother and her whole future colony ended in a jar before she ever reaches your walls. You set one of those near the door, one under the kitchen sink, one in the bathroom. You refresh the pinch of yeast every few days. And you have built yourself a permanent, self-renewing wall against every roach that tries to move in for the price of a little flower aisle yeast in a jar you already own. That is the finale. Foil and yeast, a trap a child could build that the entire pest control industry has spent decades and your hard-earned dollars hoping you'd never stumble onto. Because once you know it, you don't need them, ever. Not the spray, not the gel, not the monthly truck in the driveway. This wasn't lost knowledge by accident. It was buried under marketing. Every dollar spent telling you the bug is too strong for you, too smart for you, that you need the professional and the patented chemical, was a dollar spent making sure you'd never just reach for the jar and the foil. The plain people kept doing it the simple way the whole time, out in the country, in the old farmhouses, while the rest of the world was taught to be helpless and to pay for the privilege. Let me give you a few more things to make all of this work better, because I don't want to send you off with the weapon and not the wisdom to aim it. Timing matters. Set your traps and your bait at dusk, not in the morning. Roaches feed at night. A trap set fresh in the evening catches the night's whole hunting party. A trap set in the morning sits all day going stale. Patience matters more. The first night you may catch nothing and think it failed. It did not fail. The roach is cautious of anything new in its world. Give it 3 nights. By the 3rd night, they trust the trap, and that's when you see the numbers climb. The man who quits on the 2nd morning is the man who goes back to the store and gives the industry another $20. Don't be that man. Trust the slow way. The slow way is the way that lasts. Cleanliness matters most of all, and this is the part nobody wants to hear. Your foil traps and your boric acid only work if they are the best meal in the house. If you've got crumbs on the counter, grease on the stove, a sink full of dishes overnight, a dog bowl left full, then your trap is competing with a feast, and it'll lose. The single most powerful thing you can do, the thing my mother drilled into us, costs nothing at all. Wipe the counters at night, sweep the floor before bed, don't leave dishes in the sink. Take the trash out. Keep food in glass or metal, not cardboard and bags. Make your house a desert, and your little foil oasis becomes the only place in the world worth going. A clean kitchen turns a good trap into a deadly one, and keep the cardboard out. I said it before, but it bears repeating because it's the number one way they ride in and the number one place they breed. Cockroaches love corrugated cardboard more than almost anything. The little tunnels in the cardboard are exactly the tight, dark, touch-on-all-sides space they crave, and the glue that holds it together is made from starch, which they eat. So those stacked boxes in the pantry, in the garage, under the basement stairs, those are not storage. Those are roach apartments with a free kitchen. Break them down. Throw them out. Store what you must in plastic tubs or glass. You'll cut their breeding ground out from under them without lifting another finger. Now I want to come back to where we started, because I think there's something here bigger than bugs. You were made to feel helpless. That's what bothers me most about the whole thing. A grown man, a grown woman who can run a household and raise a family and balance a budget was told that a creature the size of a thumbnail was beyond your power. that you needed to hand money to a stranger every month just to live in your own clean home without shame. That's not true. It was never true. It was just profitable for someone that you believed it. The plain people never believed it because we were never sold it. We just watched the roach, learned what it wanted, and used what it wanted to be rid of it with a sheet of foil and a pinch of yeast and a little patience, the same way we did everything. Quietly, cheaply, with our own two hands. Not because we were clever, but because we never let ourselves forget that most of what the world sells you, you already have in your own drawer. You just recovered something tonight. Something that was quietly taken from you, one $20 bottle at a time. You don't have to give it back. You don't have to call anyone. You don't have to drive to the store. You can walk into your kitchen tonight, open that drawer, tear off a sheet of foil, and take your house back. That's who you are now. Someone who refuses to keep paying for what nature and the old ways already handed you for free. So here's what I'd ask of you. Go back up to that comment box and tell me the two things I asked at the start. Which state you're watching from, and whether you've got the little kitchen roaches or the big ones from the drains. I want to know who's out there, and I read every single comment, and I answer the ones I can. Tell me, too, if you've got an old house, because I've got a few more tricks for the Stone Foundation folks that I save for the ones who speak up. And if this gave you back something the store took, then stay with us. This isn't a channel so much as it's a back porch, where folks who are tired of overpaying for what the old ways already knew can sit a while and remember the simple things together. Subscribe and pull up a chair, because next time I'm going to show you the one thing my grandmother kept on the windowsill that ants would not cross, not for anything, the same white powder's quiet cousin, and why she set it down on the first warm day of spring every single year before she ever saw a single ant. It's another thing they sell you for $30 that costs about a dime. But that's for next time. For tonight, go find your foil. The roaches won't know what hit them, and neither will the man who's been billing you for years. Sleep easy. You've got the knowledge now. And knowledge, the plain people always said, is the one thing nobody can ever sell back to you once you truly own it.